Hello there, welcome back, and thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Theresa and I upload videos 2 to 3 times a week where we share one little spark of life together. If you're enjoying hanging out today and you'd like to hang out more often, make sure you click that subscribe button and ring that bell before you leave here today. That way YouTube will let you know each and every time I upload a new video. This is the second episode in my very short series of going through my paint collection. I have already gone through and swatched my really old acrylic paint collection. I will be linking that video down below in the description box in case you wanted to check it out after today's video. And today I have to go through my watercolor paints as well as my gouache paints. We are going to go with the gouache sets first. I will be breaking up this video not only by type of paint, but type of paint type. Or brand of paint type, I guess I would say. I will be leaving those timestamps in the YouTube chapter down below this video so you can click to whichever part you would like. Gouache paints are first, and I have some jelly cup paints as well as some tube gouache paints. They kind of shifted. So these they went viral a while back on YouTube and on TikTok, and that's actually when I picked these up about a year ago. This is one of the sets from Himi. It's the Himi Gouache Jelly Paints, and the reason that they are called jelly paints is not that they're like of jelly consistency like I hear so many people say on YouTube, because I don't really find that they are of jelly consistency. Let's see, I'm gonna get the driest one because some of these have dried down in a year. They come in these little cups, in these little plastic cups like Jello does, or as it's called in other parts of the world, jelly. So this is the paint. The paint does come completely covered, and whenever, as you can see I have paint on me already, that hasn't come off. So the paint comes covered, and when you get it, you take it out, you rip the cover off, and then you arrange it like you would like. I am going to attempt to show you what they look like. I've had mine for a year. Some of them have already started to dry out, but you just take a spray bottle or a dropper with water and you spray, and then like the paint comes alive again. So this is what they look like. There's a little area here for brushes. This set does come with brushes, by the way. I'll be linking this set in the description box in case you want it to check it out. So this, I'm going to be swatching these gouache paints 2 ways. First swatch is going to be just like straight up, like if it would be acrylic. And then the next is going to be the quote unquote proper way to use them, which is more watered down like you would a watercolor. I have watched and read a whole bunch of people say that these are not, typically not used correctly. They are used too thick. They're supposed to be like a more watercolor wash of color. To be honest, I use them both ways. I enjoy using these more so like a thicker body paint would be used. Honestly, you can use paints however you want. If you want to finger paint with these, be my guest. It does not really matter. But those are the 2 types of swatches I will be doing because those are the 2 ways that I do use these paints. the second part of swatching my gouache paints, I have tube gouache paints like this. Because they are in the tube, what I'm going to do is just use them like you would, or like how, I guess, quote unquote, they're meant to be used. You put them on your palette, you mix them with your water, and then use them as you would a regular watercolor. So I do like these. I do find though that since they are something that you do actually have to mix together, unlike the Himis, which are completely all done for you, I don't grab these as much because the jelly paints, the gouache paint in the cup is all ready to go. So whenever I sit down and I just want to paint something or fill something in that I've sketched out, they are already pre-made. This is an extra step that sometimes it's out of laziness. Sometimes though it is just, I simply don't have the time. So these have not been used quite as much. All right, so next up is watercolor paints, proper watercolor paints. And I have technically two types, but we're going to do three different segments of these swatches. First up are the tubed watercolors. I do not know how old these watercolors are and if they'll even work. These are the, this is the set that I have. Let me just show you because I know that they are more expensive and I didn't purchase this. I want to say, I think these were either one or both of my parents' set that I like snagged one day, or maybe they gave me, I can't remember. But this is a watercolor set. I know watercolor sets are a lot more expensive than just buying the tube, but I feel that like you get a bit more of a value because you get something like I use this. Typically this and then the bottom portion I'll use as palettes and it's really easy to travel with. These are the oldest set that I have. I feel like well, you know me, I mispronounce everything, but I feel like I'm really going to mispronounce this. Grumbacher, I think, paints. And they are Academy Watercolors. This is the artist sketchbox set number 20/12. For as long as I can remember, these have been in existence. So I would venture to say, and I'll ask my parents after this goes live and put in the comments how old these actually are. I think these watercolor tubes are anywhere from 20 to 30 years old. I asked them after I filmed this and they said that they were actually from their college years in the 70s. So they're that old. Around like 40-ish, over 40 years old. So yeah, more you know. Not exactly sure. And like I said, I'm not exactly sure if they're even still going to be good, but we'll give it a shot. So they look like this. I have quite an assortment of these. I'm most excited about these really old watercolors, so let's see how they swatch. Now my next set of watercolors from the tube is a smaller variety, and they are newer, but they are still, I think, over 10 years old, and they are from Winsor and Newton. And so they are pretty much the same size as the others, maybe a little taller because they're less like scrunched up from use. But same concept, you just mix them with water to the opacity that you want. Let's see how these Winsor and Newtons do. And then finally, in our watercolor swatches, we have just the old standby of just these sort of watercolors, the ones that are like the dried disc watercolor. These are not my favorite, if I'm going to be honest. The ones that come dry, I like the ones that stay semi-moist, the ones that say like the semi-moist ones. Those are actually my favorite to use as far as pre-made watercolors, but these are pretty good. Some of these though, I haven't used like more than once. So I am interested to see how these swatch and how pigmented these actually are. So that was interesting. I did not expect the really, really old watercolors to still be so good. As you saw, we did lose 3. We lost the red that exploded. That one still swatched really, really well. And I thought, whenever I was going through it, I thought, well, I will just put this like in a Ziploc bag and keep it. But it was just like oozing out, and there was no way for me to stop it from oozing out. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna throw it, which was a shame because it was a beautiful color. And then the blue and the white, unfortunately, were way too, like, they had lost all of any moisture that they had in them. Any of the oil had dried out. So it was just, they were just like that really tight pigment, pretty much a tight pigment powder at that point. So unfortunately, I will be throwing those away, but everything else that I swatched today, I will be keeping and will be using more often. Speaking of using more often, you might be sitting there and saying, well, why are all of these paints being swatched? Which, bold of you to sit there and wonder that because you've made it through this far in the video. But I'm gonna take you over and show you. Last month, I think it was. I don't know when it was. I'll link the video down below. I made a corner of my apartment into my working art studio because it was the only space I could really afford in my apartment. And I do want to show you. So this is what it looks like. This is a piece that I'm working on that is called All the Lonely People. So, work in progress. But this is what I'm doing. Let me move the lamp. So this is what I want it to accomplish. So I want it to make this into a proper working studio and therefore have all of the paints. So the acrylic paints as well as the paints that we swatched today. It's much later in the day from when I swatched, so they're all dried and up on the wall. I wanted them here so that whenever I'm trying to figure out what I want to use for a painting, I know what I have so that if I have to run to the store to get paints, I don't have to I don't accidentally repurchase something I already have, and that I know like these are the color stories of things that I can work with or the colors that I have to mix to, you know, of course, create other colors. And so this is where I will leave you for the day. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a favorite brand of gouache and or watercolor paint that you love to use. I would love to hear from you. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.